Oh, snizzity snap, baby. We're back. Motivate with EY on this week. With this week's edition. That's how we're going to do it. And so I was thinking about a lot of different things this week. I made a whole bunch of notes in my trusty notepad, which I will be deferring to throughout this podcast. So tonight I will be talking about where to put your energy. I'm going to go over some things that I see, things that I've done in the past, things that help me, and then kind of summarize it into maybe a different approach into how we go about doing things throughout our life that are going to be productive, that have a positive effect, and that will actually make an impact somehow down the road that can help you. Because I believe so many times, I've done this in the past, that's why I believe it, that we put our energy into a lot of things that we just can't control. It's out of one of the many things that my mother taught me was your circle of control, right? Things of, you can affect these specific things here. Anything outside of here, you can't affect. You can't do anything about. It's all circumstance, it's all other people or outside influences, and yet we put so much energy into those things, and that's energy wasted. It's things that we just, it doesn't matter what we do. We don't have an effect on those things. So what I've done in the past is worry about all these kind of variables. And what does that do? It causes anxiety. It causes you not to be able to sleep very well. It causes negative thoughts and feelings, and then it actually affects what you do throughout the day and how you interact with other people. It gets to where you're like, oh my God, you get into this funky mood, and you can't, when someone comes up to you, hey, what's going on? And you kind of already standoffish, and you're just like, nah, it's, I don't know, I'm just having one of those blah days. But really, it's not a blah day. It's just where we've built up this anxiety about all these things. Maybe you have a big event coming up. Maybe it's something that you don't want to deal with. You've been putting off for a while. It could be, this could fall under any number of topics, whether it's how you interact with some people in your life, and maybe you're trying to struggle with the relationship that you're having with somebody. Maybe it's work related, maybe it's your immediate family related with your kids, it's financial, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. But these are all things that as human beings we have to deal with, right? And look, I'll say it again, I say it almost on every podcast, I'm not a professional, okay? I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a scientist, I'm not a doctor, I'm none of those things, okay? But what I do is I pay attention to a lot of the mishaps and things that I've done in the past that, I've fallen short, and then learned through other people and other people helping me, and learned how to get my way out of these things and find a path that kind of makes sense for me. I've taken bits of information from other people and said, hey, this is what's going to work for me. So I want to get that out of the way. I'm not a professional. These are just food for thought, okay? So what are the things that we can control? Well, for all of us and for every circumstance and scenario, it's different. We have to decide what is within that circle of control. And anything outside of that, worrying about it does nothing. Hoping it goes away or hoping it falls into place doesn't do anything. Wishing it away, or wishing that it gets easier, or wishing that something good happens, doesn't do anything. It's all wasted energy. And yet that's what I know I've done. I've kind of hung my hat on. I hope it all turns out the right way. I don't even know what that even means anymore. That's just those are just words now at that point. What I've found that works for me is, if there's something coming up, if I need to be prepared for something, if I need to be planning for something, if it's some kind of big event, whether it's a fun event or just a life event that I need to be ready for, what helps me is to kind of deconstruct the whole thing and say, okay, here's what I know, what I can control. I can control being prepared, I can control thinking about variables, I can control my attitude, I can control my mindset. Things that I can't control doesn't even matter. But what could happen? Because that's what really, I think, starts to eat at us all the time, is all the what ifs and the coulds and all these things that are potential, options of what could happen. So instead of just worrying about those things and then hoping, worry about what you can't control and just hoping that it turns out okay, it seems like, to me, it's just a recipe for disaster. It has always been a recipe for disaster in my life. Sure, every so often it works in your favor, but I don't want to live my life that way, and I don't think most people do. So what helps me is to deconstruct the whole thing. If it's a problem, deconstruct the problem. If it's an event or some kind of scenario coming up, look at it from all angles. Be objective. Don't just look at it from your point of view. How's this going to affect me? Look at it from all the different angles. Look at it from every which possible way that you can think of. If you were on the outside looking in, how would you view this? And then it helps me to write things down, because, let's be honest, we don't retain that much if we just think about things. We have to write it down. I don't know what the percentage is. It's a high percentage, something like 68% we remember if we write it down. So if that number's wrong, I apologize. But I write things down. Okay, if this happens, how am I going to react? If this happens, how am I going to react? What am I gonna do in all these scenarios? Now, in my profession, my career, I've been in sales my whole career, so I've kind of had to do this from time to time. Where, hey, look, if the customer says this to me, how am I going to react? If they bring up this, how would I react? If I was in their shoes, what questions would I have? And kind of look at things from just different points of view and write down all these scenarios. This could happen, this could happen, this could happen. And then you start writing how you're going to handle those things. Now you put yourself into the equation and say, okay, based on if this happens, how am I going to react to this? How am I going to handle it? That way, you've written it down. You've kind of mentally now prepared yourself. You've put yourself in each one of these scenarios and said, hey, this could happen, so this is how I'm going to react. And this could happen, and this is how. Now, instead of having a multitude of options and variables that could potentially just, have your world come crashing down, it seems like, or if at the very least put a big roadblock or a hiccup, in your plans. Now, instead of having 15, 20 different things that could potentially happen that you're not prepared for, with an answer, a solution, and you're definitely not mentally prepared. I mean, that's what it is sometimes just wrapping your head around the worst case scenarios, around all the variables. It helps. It helps me quite a bit. And now, instead of having 15 or 20 things, you shrunk it down to maybe a handful of things, or less. Maybe it's only a couple of potential of options or scenarios you didn't think of. Now, you prepared for all these other ones. So if any one of these other things happen, boom, you've already thought about it. You already know what you're going to say, already know what you're going to do, and boom, you're right there. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to stop and panic and go, oh my God, what am I going to do now? Because you've already thought about it. You've mentally prepared for it. And now you have the answer, and you can react. You can react in a methodical, calm way, because you've already kind of dealt with it in your head. You go, oh yeah, that's right. This came up. Here's what I do. I'm doing it this way now. I've thought it through. And as you're writing these scenarios down, or all potential options, think about them really, really think about it. How do I really want to react? Don't quick answers and just to get it done. That's not the point. The point is to have a real solid answer or response to what's going to happen. And this could go for job interviews. I've done this for job interviews. I've had pages of questions that I think they're going to ask me. And sure, it's based off of history. What have other employers asked me? What would I ask? If I was the man in charge, or if you're the woman in charge, what questions would you have for a potential employee? If this is, I have this past overdue bill and I just don't know how to deal with it, and it's coming up on me. Well, look, stop and think. Okay, we know what's going to happen, right? You got to pay the bill, or they're going to send you to collections. Then they're going to keep calling you. Then it's going to hit your credit report, right? So all these things, what's going to happen. So just say, okay, look, maybe I call them and I'm going to try to set up a payment plan. And if they say no, then I'll offer a payment option to just pay it. So if I owe $500, maybe if I give them half of it and they can call it good, then I'll offer that. And if they say no to that, you have to pay it all, or send you to collections. Okay, then how am I going to handle that? Am I going to go to somebody and try to get a loan to try to pay it, worst case scenario? Or am I just going to let it go to collect? Have all those things worked out. If this happens, I do this. This happens, I do this. And you're already there. And we put energy, we put focus into things that are worth it. And this could be relationships. I mean, we all have relationships in our life, whether it's your romantic relationships with a husband, a spouse, or a boyfriend, girlfriend. It could be with your own kids. It can be with your friends, family. I mean, we've talked about this many times on this podcast too, is all relationships we have expectations, we have just how we interact. And sometimes those relationships become toxic. Maybe we've had a friend where they just things have been happening, and you got to stay away from that friend, and so you got to figure out how you're going to tell them and how you're going to maybe keep your distance. And don't just hope that they don't call you, or hope that they kind of leave you alone, and then you just kind of come up with some kind of excuse last minute. If they do come to you, have a plan. Maybe you call them, maybe you take them out to lunch and say, hey, I know you got a lot going on, but just so you know, I do too, and I got to really focus on this here. Look, whatever it is, I'm not here to tell you what to do. That's not what I'm here for. I'm here to give food for thought, to give you a different way of looking at things. And all these topics that I come up with, I don't just sit at home and think, what can I talk about? These are all subjects and things that discussions I've had with people, things, interactions that I've seen with people that I love, and through myself and with other people. So these are all things that I see we're all going through all the time. And I wonder why. I wonder why people don't handle things a different way. And I get it. We don't always like confrontation. We don't always want to stare in the face the thing that's been, kind of hovering over us, whatever it is. And so we put energy into all these places on the outward, but then it ends up eating us up on the inside. It ends up being a bunch of wasted energy and time and focus that could be utilized towards something else, towards an actual solution. Because how many times have we done that? You have something hanging over your head, whether it's at work or at home, and you're just like, I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to do that. I'll wait for it to come up, and then I'll figure it out then. Don't want to deal with it. And then something happens. You get boom, right now it's right in your face, and then you handle it, and then you talk it out, and you come up with a solution, and you think at the end of it, you shake hands or you hug, and whatever happens, and everybody's good. You figured it out. You figured a way out of it or way through it, and everybody's happy. And then you go, I've been worried about this for months. For months. I've been sick to my stomach and anxiety and giving me headaches, and I've lost sleep for months, and this is all it was. I could have fixed this a long time ago. We've all done that. We've all done it. I've done it more times than I care to count, and I'm not going to try to count. But yet we still, it's almost like we don't learn from this kind of interaction, and it's really strange to me. And that's kind of why I brought this up, because I want to give maybe a different way to look at it, a way to say, you know what, that kind of thing that Eric said made sense. So I hope that does. Look at my notes here. Oh, so one of the notes that I did make is, look, I'm a fight fan. I enjoy watching boxing, mixed martial arts, jiu-jitsu, all these things. And in all these things, how many times have you been watching a fight? Or maybe it's not a fight, maybe it's another contest. Maybe it's football, baseball, whatever. And you're thinking, they try to run a play, and they're trying to get to the end zone. They're right on the 1 yard line, and they get stuffed. Boom, boom, boom. They can't score a touchdown. And you're thinking, why didn't you just do this? Why didn't you plan for this? Right? We're sitting here on our cozy couch, acting like we know everything about football, and we're yelling at the TV saying, why didn't you try this play? Why didn't you try that play? Why weren't you ready for this? Why weren't you ready for them to blitz? Well, it's not that they weren't ready. The other team, they came up with a better game plan, they executed it better. That's what this is like, and it'll make more, I think to me it makes more sense if I compare it to a mixed martial arts fight. In mixed martial arts, you've got to be ready for everything. Punches, kicks, knees, elbows, takedowns, chokes, arm locks, leg locks, elbows to the face on the ground, you know, jumping flying knees, flying kicks, all kinds of crazy. You have to be ready for everything. And when some guy gets knocked out by something, boom, boom, a 1-2 punch, and then people are at home thinking, how come you didn't train for that? You're not ready for that just simple punch? No, his brain is overloaded with all the variables, okay? We gotta prepare for life that way. We gotta prepare for the punches of life, the kicks, the elbows, the knees, the takedowns, all the stuff, and it hits us. We feel it all the time. I feel it. I feel like I got things pretty good. I got, you know, we got our life going real well, me and my family. We plan for a lot of stuff. We have a big calendar that we communicate with what's going on coming up in the whole month, and we got a lot of great things going for us. You know, we plan our meals really well, plan workouts really well, all of our events with our kids. All these things are very well thought out. I feel like we got it really under control, but life sometimes comes out of nowhere from behind, you know, wraps his arms around you, takes you down, chokes you a little bit. And you're like, whoa, I wasn't ready for that. Well, sometimes you got to think that way. Sometimes you got to think, what if this happens? What if that happens? How are we gonna figure this out? And what are we gonna do to prepare? That's a big one. Preparing. It's one thing to say, well, if this happens, I guess I'll do this. Well, there's preparation that goes along with that. You know, if the preparation's financial, if the preparation is some other kind of resource, if the preparation is whatever. I mean, there's so many things to think of. And we do these things, you know, I talked about it before with, you know, when I was talking about managing your health and going to get blood work done. You know, I'll use the same scenario. If your favorite band was coming into town, you prepare for it. You get a babysitter, you take time off of work, you save up, you do all these things to make sure you can participate in this event. But when something else that we need to prepare for, something else that we need to be conscious of in our life that could, you know, really take our legs out from under us and put us in a bad way, put us, you know, 10 steps behind where we were, we're not preparing. And look, I'm still guilty of this, and I'm working on my things. I'm working on my financials to prepare to get me and my family in a better position, so that way college is paid for our youngest, and you know, we're looking at, you know, for retirement for down the road, and all these other things. That's all about preparing, and these are the things that I'm working on. But you know, a lot of us, we're just not preparing for stuff. We're just letting life happen, and we do the whole I'll figure it out when it happens, and usually it doesn't turn out the best, you know, and it doesn't even turn out that good. A lot of times it turns out to be pretty bad, if even catastrophic sometimes. So this is where I see a big gap of where we could be putting our energy. Put all this energy into a lot of, you know, I'll call it junk food for our brain, junk food for our life, not just, you know, the food that we eat, but all the things that we do that takes up time in our day, takes up space in our head. You know, we're worried about a show that we saw and what's going to happen next episode, and are they going to bring it back next season, and all these things. I mean, this is all, look, we all have things that we enjoy. I'm sure people tell you I waste a lot of time on fights. You know, I do. I spend quite a bit of time on watching fights and getting ready for the next one coming up and all these things. But I really do. It's built into my schedule. If I know I have things to get done later on that day, I get them done before the fights start. And if I don't get them done, then I know I've added more work for the following day. Or maybe I show up late and watch the fight a little bit late. Or maybe I record it and watch it later that night. Whatever it is, you know, you have to figure out a way to work it into your schedule. But focus on the right stuff, on the stuff that you can control, your circle of control. All this stuff on the outside, it is wasted. Here's what's even crazier. They've done studies on worry, when people worry about things, and I don't remember what the percentage is. It's really high. It's over 50%. I want to say it's closer to 60-65% of things that people worry about are in the past. They're in the past. That's craziness. Can you imagine if you really wrote down all the things that are bothering you and causing you stress and anxiety in your life, how much of that's in the past? And then there's a bunch of stuff that's just, it's way out of your control. You know, if it's weather, if, you know, oh, I got an event coming up outside. No, what about the weather? Well, look at the forecast. Well, the forecast says it's supposed to be, you know, maybe partly, you know, it could rain, but oh, so what are you going to do if it rains? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Nothing. You're going to accept it, and you're either still going to go to the event, you're still going to do whatever to play the game, the baseball game, or whatever it is. You're either going to do it in the rain, or you're going to wait for the rain to go away, or you're just going to not do it at all. And just wrap your head around all those scenarios. Hey, if we don't get to play, if we don't get to go to the carnival or to the, you know, whatever it is outside because it rains, then we don't go. It's not the end of the world. Is it fun? Sure. Is it something I really wanted to do and was looking forward to? Sure. But it's not the end of the world. So wrap your head around that option and say, okay, I guess if that's what happens, I'll be okay with it. We'll figure something else out. Hey, maybe we'll go to the movies instead. There's this movie we've been wanting to see anyway. Hey, maybe we just do that instead. You know, or maybe we stay home and clean up, do a little spring cleaning. Maybe we do what doesn't matter. Point is, wrap your head around it mentally for that option, for that variable. And then once you figure out a way to be okay with it and maybe have an alternate plan of something that the rain won't affect, you feel better about it. And if the rain does come and they do cancel the event, hey, boom, let's go. We're going to the movies. Hey, let's go back home. We've been wanting to go through those old totes for a long time. That's what we're doing today. Or maybe now I have an hour to just go home and relax. And let's just go home and take a breather. We've been going 100 miles an hour for 6 days. Let's take the 7th day and just relax. That's good too. So, what are my other notes here? Plan ahead, we talked about that. People, when it comes to people, where to put your energy into people, that's a tough one. That's something that, here's all I'll say about this is, we all have to accept the responsibility of the relationships that we have with people. Because if there's one thing that I've learned in dealing with all the people in my life that I've met and had relationships with, is people treat you the way you allow them to treat you. And that's it. So if you allow someone to be toxic in your life, they're going to keep being toxic. Now look, let's weed out the extremes here. There are some just absolutely crazy people that want to terrorize other people. And if you have one of those people in your life, I don't know. I don't have an answer for you. I really don't. That's not my area of expertise. Like I said, I'm not a professional, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a psychologist, and I'm not a cop. So I can't tell you legally what you can do to get rid of this person. But with those extremes aside, we have to just, if we're focusing, we have all met, most likely, people that just suck up energy, and the energy they give back to you is negative. And managing that is exhausting. It can be really exhausting. And I luckily have learned how to really weed out these people in my life. And if there's ever anybody that comes in, and maybe it's somebody I have to deal with, maybe it's somebody at work, or sometimes just people you have to deal with, I limit my exposure to them. I limit my interactions with them. And I prepare myself mentally if I have to deal with them. Okay, you know you're gonna have to talk to them. You know what it's gonna be like. Just prepare yourself and get through it as best as possible. Be as positive as possible. Try to be as helpful as possible, and then also know how to exit gracefully. Know how to get yourself out of there without causing a problem. And that's kind of an art all in its own. Like I said, I'm not a professional here. I only do what works for me. But I will tell you, from my experience and from other people's experience that I know have dealt with this, is when they finally figure out how to eliminate or limit their interactions with these kind of toxic people who suck all the positive energy out and suck everything and replace it with negativity. When you finally learn how to get away or stay away or just limit how much you have to deal with them, everybody's so much happier. And because I'm not a psychiatrist, because I'm not a professional, I can't help everybody. Look, I have my family, I have my job, I have my hobbies, I have all the things that I love to do. I don't have time to do all the things that I want to do and things that I love to do. I don't have enough time for that. So I sure don't have time, any of that time, to give to somebody who's going to take it for granted, who's going to take advantage, and who's just going to be toxic and poisonous to my mindset, to my emotional well-being, and God forbid, financial well-being, right? So I don't put any energy into those people. I can't. I don't have it to spare. I'd rather give it to my family, my friends, my positive coworkers, to my bosses. I want to give all that energy to people who want it, who don't take it for granted, and who enjoy it. That's what I want to do. That's what I'm going to. That's all I'm going to do. Because there's not enough time. There's not enough hours to give to anybody else. I just don't have it. And I'm sure most of you guys don't have it either. So that's all I'll say. That's all I got to say about that. Is just managing those interactions, managing those relationships better. And however you do that is up to you. We all have our own personalities. We have our ways of dealing with things. So you have to figure out the best way for you. But my only advice is to limit, or to even just completely get away from those kinds of people. Because it will suck. It takes so much from you. And it's not worth it, because you're never going to get that back. It's almost like those people don't know how to come back to you and say, well, you know what, you've done so much for me, let me, how can I be there for you? It's just not like that. It's a one-way giving relationship all the time. So for me, I don't have the time, I don't have the energy, and I will not give it any of that time or energy or focus for people who just, for lack of a better term, they just don't deserve it in my world. They just don't. So just to recap here, where to focus your energy is what I believe in people. Find the right people that deserve your time and energy and your focus and your help and your love and all the great things that you have to give. When it comes to taking, things in life, just life overall, don't put time and energy in things you can't control. That's a complete waste. And sometimes we don't even realize we're doing it. We just do it because it's natural. It's almost like this natural human reaction to things, but be more conscious of it. Write down all the variables. Prepare yourself mentally, emotionally, physically if you need to, whatever it takes. Just be ready for write down all the variables. Be prepared. Look at all the options. How am I going to handle this? That way when it happens, you're like, I got it. And if it's one of the very few items that you didn't cover, that's what happens, hey, that's much easier. When you go into a scenario prepared, you feel more confident, ready. And if it's one of those other variables, you're like, okay, I can figure this out, because you figured out all these other ones. It's not as big a deal. So prepare, write things down, wrap your head around mentally, wrap your emotions around it so you know how you're going to feel for the most part, not all the way, but you know what I mean. Just be ready for it, how you're going to react. Here's my plan. And have multiple plans. Then when life does hit you, when life does sneak up behind you, okay, and throw a cheap shot at you, you're like, that's all you got? I can deal with that. Got this. So that's my motivation for this week. Put your energy in the right places. Be around the right people. Spread all the positivity. Give as much as you can, and just be out there kicking ass and enjoying life to the fullest every day. One of the things I want to talk about a little bit more in depth at a different podcast, but one of the things I so much enjoy, and I've talked about this before too, but I don't know what to call them. I guess kind of these little micro interactions with people. And I give you an example of what I'm talking about, and then we'll close this thing out here. The other day I was for work, I was visiting a customer's home, and I got done, and as I'm getting into the car, the garbage guys were going around picking up all the trash on the street, and the guy was out of his truck, and I looked up at him, he looked up at me, he goes, "What's up, Chief?" And I'm like, "How's it going, Bob? Have a good day." And And so I get in my car, and I just had this nice little tingly feeling where it was like, that was just nice. It was a nice interaction with another human being. He was having a good day. He was working. The sun was out shining. It was a beautiful day. I'm working, having a great day. And we just had a nice little moment there. And I get in my car, and as I U-turn around, we're crisscrossing. I look at him, and I give him a nice big wave, and he honks the horn and everything. And I'm driving away, and for a good couple minutes, I'm smiling. I feel good. I got just this overall great emotional feeling. And it was nice. So try to have more of those interactions with people. Hold the door open for people, smile at people, wave at people. You know, we've gotten into this kind of a weird world where we feel like we're being a creep, or, ooh, why is this person waving at me? Why is this person smiling at me? Well, you know what? Sometimes it's just nice. It's nice to have those little micro positive interactions with people. So have more of those. And thank you for watching. If you do enjoy the content, please subscribe to my YouTube page. Click the like button there at the bottom. If you want to send me some input, some messages, I appreciate all the feedback as well. And if you want, also share this with anybody out there that you know that might, take some good positive notes from this, and maybe help them with their interactions with other people and their lives as well. So thank you for watching. I appreciate everybody. Share it, spread the love, spread the word, everything. Thank you so much. This is Motivate with EY. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you guys.